This podcast is brought to you by Independent Building Advice. IBA acknowledges traditional owners of the land and waters this podcast is recorded on. If you find this episode helpful, follow us for more so we can continue putting out free value for all homeowners in Australia. It really goes a long way. Enjoy the episode.
Subdividing your land. A lot of people come to us and they want to subdivide their block, or they don't know if they can subdivide their block or what's involved. Most people are really confused. A lot of people get the wrong advice. Well, today we're going to give you the right advice in this podcast. Now, we're not going to go too deep in the sense that we can't go specifics on blocks because we're talking very broadly because it depends on your particular land. However, something we excel in, we do a lot of work around this. We actually have experts here that specialize in this kind of work, and we make subdivision as easy as it possibly can be by giving the right advice and project manage the whole way through it, or helping you do it yourself if you want. So let's talk about subdivision. So basic stuff here. What is subdividing your block? Subdividing is that you have a standard block, let's say a green title block, which I'll explain in a minute, and you want to break it into a second block or a third block or how many blocks you want, and therefore you have two lots of pieces of land, and you're subdividing it. So what's involved? So what happens first of all, every block of land in Perth is given a zoning. So you have R20, R30, R40, R50, R5, whichever. What that means is that is how many houses you can have in the area per hectare. So if you have an R5 block, you can have 5 houses in that area per hectare, which means that they're bigger blocks and they will have bigger setbacks. You have a 10 metre setback or whatever it might be, depending on your R code. I'm not saying R code R5 is that, but depending on your size. As the number goes higher, right, then your setbacks are reduced and you can have smaller blocks. The reason for this, like if you had farmyard area, for example, that would be a much lower R code. And if you had a bigger sort of area, a more inner city sort of area, often they'll have a smaller R code. You really need to know that piece of information because that is going to tell us what we can do with that piece of land. So for example, if you had an R20 block, we would normally have to have 6 metre setbacks from the front on average. And that's things we need to take into account when we're actually seeing how many homes can fit in that area. If you look at your block of land and you've got an R20, for example, we would then indicate based on your land size whether you can put a house behind it, a house at the front, side by side, I should say, as well, and how we can best chop up that land for you, and that's good for resale. So if you're looking at these blocks, that is a key piece of information that any designer will ask you up front. Do you know your zoning? And you can look it up. If you want to find it, type in most areas, go to your local shire and look for an intramap, INTRA maps, and that will show you the intramaps of all the land in that estate in your area. And click on that, put in your address, and it will tell you generally on the right-hand side, if you can find it, it's hard to find sometimes, what the zoning is, or you can ring your local council and ask them, what's the zoning of my block? And that will give you an idea. So once we've got that piece of information, we also need to do another thing. We need to check the local authority, the council, whether there's special rules in your area. Often they'll have their own rules in a precinct or something like that where you can or can't subdivide that block of land. And they're all the things we need to know before you go down this path. Once we found your block of land, we then look at it and go, okay, yep, we can do it. So different types of subdivisions. You can do what we call a battle axe block, and that is a house at the front, a house behind it, and you will have a driveway going down one side to get to the back of the block. And that's a typical battle axe block. In doing that home there, you have a bit of expenses that cost a little bit more than doing a normal home. And that is that you have to run all your power, water, electricity, and sewer to the back of the block. And you need to basically make sure that that home is powered and treated normally. And then obviously you have a longer driveway to get to the back there. You might have, if there's a bit of a sloping there, it's normally a smaller sort of block. So you might have a few retaining wall issues and things you need to look after. But there's a bit of extra cost with that. The other thing as well is that a lot of builders and trades don't want to drive trucks and don't want to have to cart things down there, so they might charge you extra money for handling materials to get down there. So a few extra costs with that, but that's a very typical way of subdividing a home, and it's great if you do the numbers and make sure it stacks up. So another option for you rather than the battle axe is going side by side, and that's when you subdivide the land in half. Let's say you got a 20 metre wide frontage block, let's say 2 10s, so you got 10 on the left, 10 on the right, and then that's street frontage, but it's a longer, narrow home. Now, this is a great way to go. It's actually probably better for resale because most people prefer their house going onto the main road, onto the road in front. However, you have got more building costs with this because a longer, narrower home is more expensive to build than a square home because you've got more materials and so forth. So in doing that, and if it's really narrow with the setbacks, we might have to go in and out with the brickwork, and then it's creating, again, more brickwork. So it could be a more expensive way to subdivide and to build a home. However, it will generally be a lot better than a house behind for resale, and also the cost of not running the sewer and all the other things to the back of the block will be a lot cheaper. So in the end, like for like, it will be a more cost-effective home and better for return. But side-by-side works. But you can't always do this. We need to do the maths to make sure that that actually works well for the block of land, and you can actually do that with your local council. So they're really your options if you're going to do two houses. Now, the other thing that we're looking at with this is that if you're going to do a house at the front and a battle axe at the back, we need to make sure that we've got enough room down the side to get a car down there to work properly. Now, as a rule of thumb, 4 metres driveway is what the councils actually want down the side of the home. And you can probably get away sometimes with a little bit less, but 4 metres is the sweet spot where you want to be. If you're doing this, often the house at the front is going to be in the way. You know, you might have a garage there from before. Back in the good old days, I like just putting the houses right in the middle of the blocks for some reason, and you get all the way around it, but it's not convenient for subdividing. So you may need to demolish a bit of the front home to make sure you've got that driveway getting to the back, and that's can be something that's another cost for you that you need to do. And sometimes the builder you choose may not do that, so you have to get another builder in, and that's an issue for you. The other thing is if you have a right of lane, or have a laneway at the back, that can really help things too. That might be your new address at the back if you're going to go down that path. So these are things we need to allow for to make sure that we're catering for that block properly. If you have any sewer easements or any sort of restrictions there are other things we need to take into account when we're building on these blocks to make sure that we can actually build a home on the block of land. So that's really doing 2 blocks. You're doing one at the front, one at the back, side by side, and that's doing 2 houses. Another way of actually subdividing your land is a triplex block. That is generally typically a house at the front, a house in the middle, and a house at the back. There will generally be a driveway down the left or the right-hand side of the property, and that allows you to go to each property down there, and you can actually make the house work that way. Generally, the home at the front is going to be probably the best for resale because it's street frontage again, and the home at the back, because of the way the shape works, you generally can have a bigger home at the back, and the middle one is the cheapest way of subdividing, cheapest of the homes for resale because it's in between the other two and doesn't have the street and doesn't have the bigger home. So it's less desirable normally, but still a great way of subdividing that land and making that work for you. Of course, you've now got a big driveway going down the back there. You've also got to have access and everything else for you there. You've got to build all the homes. So that's how the subdivision works with a triplex block, and then gets bigger from there. You can do 4s, 6s, and so forth. We 4s, 5s, 6s, and we do all different layouts. Sometimes the driveway goes in the middle and you have basically a roundabout sort of area. Well, not roundabout, you have like a cul-de-sac area and you have all houses off it. Different designs for different layouts for what you've got. Just a moment of your time, I just want to talk to you about something. A problem that we commonly see when building or renovating or extending is people go down one path, or we're going to build a new home here, we're going to demolish and build, or they go down another path, they want to extend or renovate their home, only to find out after they spent quite a bit of money designing the house that was the wrong path and they should have actually gone the other way. This could cost you $5, $10, $15, $20, sometimes $30,000 by going down that wrong path. And the reason for that is they got bad advice, they got caught up in an element of their home and then expanded into something better. And often, sometimes it might be cheaper, more affordable, or a better outcome for you to go the other way than what the area you originally planned down. So to help this, what we've done, we've created a little document here that will actually ask you a series of questions, not too many questions, but it will actually help you work out for yourself which is the best path to go down. Should we demolish the home and build new? Or should we just have the current home and extend that and make that a better home or renovate that home for you? So we encourage you in the show notes to download our little program that we've got there for you. You'll see it all there and fill it out yourself. And that will allow you to make a clear decision at the start of whether you should build or you should actually extend your home or renovate your home to make it just right for you. It's an unbiased quiz. We put a lot of time into it to really give you real information. Now, at the end of the day, if it's still borderline, you're still not sure, we're more than happy to come out there and give you proper advice. But this is designed to help you without anyone else's help and just fill out the questionnaire. So show notes, have a look at it. Hopefully it helps you. Thanks very much for your time. The best blocks to subdivide, especially into 2, are corner blocks. You've got a front block, you have a street frontage this way, separate houses off the other corner. It's a beautiful way to subdivide it. It's a dream. If you have one of these, this is so easy for you. And now you've got 2 street frontages and it's a nice, clean way of doing it. So this is just gives you a bit of an overview about how subdivisions work. and I'm now going to go into different titles. I'm going to go into different fees. So the way that titles work, so you've really got three main titles. You have your green title, which is basically you have a block of land and you own it outright. Everything about that block you own, all the power, electricity, sewer, everything that's on that block of land that gets connected to your home, that is your block of land. You can do whatever you want with it and you don't have to ask anyone except for the council's permission. Next one is a build strata. A build strata is basically a strata property. You have one big title and you all share a portion of that title and you're all on that big piece of property. And that's normally the one that most people don't like. That can have ongoing fees, can have ongoing costs. It's not as good for resale, build strata, but you can build lots of homes at once on that property and you're fine. Okay. And now a lot of people do that because it's the cheapest way to subdivide. The costs are a lot cheaper per block. And that's why a lot of people go for that way, but it's also the worst for resale. So you've got to weigh up what's best for you. The third one is the most misunderstood one of all of them, and that is called survey strata. What survey strata is, and it's bad advertising, it's bad branding here. It's got strata in the word, and that freaks people out, but they misunderstand what it means. So green title, you own it all outright. Survey strata is almost as good as green title, and that means that you own it all outright. There's no ongoing fees. There's nothing else involved in it. However, you may share a common sewer, or you may have something that you're sharing with another block, and it's and you don't need basically to access them or anything else like that. It just means that you're sharing something, and therefore it's got the strata comment to it, but you have all the opportunities that you would a green title. And the reality is for both are about the same for resale when you go to sell it. Green title probably edges it out slightly purely because most people know what green title is and the word strata scares them. But green title and survey strata are both good options. Survey strata is generally slightly cheaper than green title. You've got to weigh up what's best for you. You want to get good advice, what works for you. There's a few myths with survey strata that you have to have it all done before you even start construction. That's not true. We actually manage people through that. But they're all three titles you need to do. You need to choose wisely, make sure you choose the right one for you. Again, subdividing to green title, you can do 2 green titles if you wanted to. That's certainly the most expensive option. But in some cases, it's the best option. So you need to weigh up, is the money you're spending now worth it? And is it going to pay off for us down the track? Now, if you come this far, we've got a fact sheet that you can actually download in the notes below. And it's going to give you lots of facts, information, a little bit extra in that as well. But the reality is get expert advice. Again, like I said, we specialize in this. You can go to your own experts if you want to out there. You got to take into account the building part of it and also the subdivision part of it and also the pricing part of it. If you go to an expert, make sure they are taking all that into account. Often they'll take a portion of it, the whole thing. So the notes are there. You can download. It's a free download, all yours if you want it. But let me give you a bit of a breakdown. So the way the process works for subdividing is you would get someone to look at it, a surveyor or someone to look at the block that you want to do, and they'll work out how we're going to subdivide this. They'll talk to you about it, and they'll work out, let's say they're going to do a house behind a house. So it's going to do a house at the front, house behind it, and what they're going to do. And what they do is, first of all, they draw it up and they send it off to West Australian Planning Commission, called the WAPC, for approval. Once they've done this, it might cost you 5 to 10 grand, depending on who you go to. And what that does, they get sent off to WAPC and they approve it. It's normally about a 3-month process. That may vary depending on the time and how busy they are. But you send it off to them and they approve, they decide whether your block can actually be subdivided. So before this, a real estate agent would say subdivision potential. Once you've got WAPC approval, you can actually advertise that as actually approved subdivision. And it's gone from potentially to reality. And what's great about this is that it's valid normally for about 3 years for you to subdivide. So at any point, whether it's now or in the future, you can subdivide that block of land. And that, when you get that back, it just means on a piece of paper, you have approval to subdivide this land if you want to, but you haven't actually subdivided at this point in time. It's a great, crucial first step. And the reason why it's really powerful is, one, your resale generally will go up, right? And the way it's valued will go up because your block of land is officially approved to be subdivided, okay? You haven't done it yet, but in the bank's eyes or individual's eyes, then that means that you've actually added a lot of value to it. So if you have a block that's subdivisible, I often recommend that you're better off going through this process, at least getting WAPC approval, and you can stop then and then you can sell it because basically it's going to give you a better resale. However, you need to actually go through the subdivision process completely if you want to sell them as individual lots. This is selling it as one. Anyway, so you get WAPC approval. The next step that you need to do is actually the physical works, right? And that is a couple of different things happening here. One is you need to get the land actually titled. You need to get the actual name of the title changed to a different lot. So it's its own individual lot piece. This is going for survey strata or green title, by the way. So you're actually subdividing both of these, and they've got its own title. It's got its own identity, so you can actually sell this to somebody else and they'll own that title. So getting a title costs a bit of money there. There's a lot involved in that with lots of little fees, lots and lots of little fees that add up. But in actually doing that process, you've got the title at the end of there, and the other part of that is the physical works. You might need to put retaining walls in, you might need to put sewers, you need to do run-ins from your connections for your home, for all your services, to make sure that block is a fully functional block on its own right from the other one. And in doing that, you've basically got you've got a lot of costs involved in that, but that land is good to sell. You can actually sell it to somebody else. There's nothing more to do on it, ready to go. Now, this whole process does vary. It can be 6 to 9 months, this whole process from the very start getting WAPC approval right through to actually getting your subdivision happening. Again, the right experts helping you with this will make that faster and give you the right advice. But it's good to get the right advice, but this is a rough guide for what you're looking at. And then your land is fully ready to go and subdivide. So, a couple of hot tips. If you're looking at building on that property, what you want to do is you can do lots of things at once. Rather than do them as what a lot of people do is they do the whole subdivision process. They get the key, they get their basically titles at the end of it, 6 to 9 months has gone by, and then they turn around and they go, okay, let's now build a home, and they go out and get homes designed for it and get it built, and then they've taken another 6 to 7 months. What you can do is while you're going through the subdivision process, you can get your designs done up for the home, get that underway, pay some deposits. So while the home's going through the whole design process, getting approved for itself, you're getting all the land done at the same time, and they should line up roughly about the same time if they start at the same time, depending on the builder you go through. So what that does, though, it means that you really don't waste any time, you don't really cop the price going up too much, and you really get the fastest turnaround for you to build homes on those properties. So it's a really good way of doing it, and again, if project managed properly, that's something that's going to get great results for you. So during that process, when you're doing that, if you're going to go build strata, what that means, though, is you don't actually need to get the title subdivided of the land until the very, very end when you got the keys, okay? So you can actually build the whole thing with lots of houses on the one title, so to speak, and then you can actually subdivide, and then you actually get the titles put through later. That's a great way to go. That's why a lot of people choose build strata, because they don't have to worry about that process. You can do a version of this with survey strata and green title, but that's another conversation about how we can do that, where you don't really, you can do a slight different version of this, which still works well, but ultimately build strata, you can just build it straight away, and you can actually get the lot subdivided at a later date. Okay, so they're the different ways that you can do it, and that's the process that's involved in it. If you're going to do blocks, for example, you're going to subdivide it, and let's say you can do a triplex, and you're going to build on the back block and then sell the middle block to pay for it, and then keep the front block, it can get quite tricky. And the reason why it gets quite tricky is, let's say someone is building on the back block, and everything's going well there, and then while they're doing that, someone starts building on the middle block. Well, that middle block is going to, a lot of the trucks now are going to block the people in the back block building because they're in the way. So often it's a very tricky way of navigating those waters and making sure that the homes can actually be built. Okay, real big issue. Second thing there as well, though, that if you're subdividing the land and you're doing this, and a lot of people make this mistake where they go, my block, I can subdivide that into, let's say, 5 houses. And we're seeing this a fair bit, though, is that when we do our maths and we do a feasibility for our clients, we look at it and we go, well, actually, for the size land you get for the 5 blocks and what they sell for equivalent today, you actually get a less financial return sometimes than if you did 4 homes. You're going to get a better return. Bigger blocks, bigger homes, more spacious, easier to sell, and you're making your better return. So it's good sometimes. Doing the most amount of blocks you can possibly do is not always the best outcome for you. So it's really important that you get someone to do a feasibility for you and goes, what does all the costs put together, we do this for our clients, all the costs put together, what will that add up to? And if we put it on the market today, would that stack up? Okay, is it going to be worthwhile doing it? Now, obviously people have different strategies. Some people build and then sell, some people just subdivide and sell the land, and some people build and hold. Okay, and hold it forever. Ideally, the rent will cover the mortgage, and that's a great way to go. And those strategies, we guide people on those, but that's ultimately which way you want to go will help you out. The thing is, though, that what some people do is they want to just subdivide the land and sell the land by itself. And that is a good way to do it. Again, you have to do the maths. The only thing I would warn people with is that, I mean, I'm in the building industry, and if I hope you realize that, but if you basically look at houses and blocks of land that are there and you're going to build a home on it, that's cool. When you walk through a house that's built, people go, oh, I love this, or I like that, or I don't like it, whichever. When you have a block of land sitting there and it's a bit of dirt and it's 20 meters by 20 meters, a lot of people struggle to get their head around what kind of home you can build on that. It's pretty average. Oh, it's too small. You can't build a decent home on that. And it hurts. It's really hard to sell that block of land by itself, and because people don't have the vision, and your return on your investment is normally not, well, it depends on the land, but is often not as good as you think it will be, because people are reluctant to buy it. They don't know what they don't know. Why spend hundreds of thousands of dollars to make a mistake? So often with those particular cases, you are better off building a home on that, getting the keys, people can walk through it, fall in love with it, and you will often make a better return on the investment than what you would just a block of land. But it does vary with each client. A really good mate of mine, Landy, shout out to you if you're watching. What she's done really well in her career is what she's done is she's bought property, house at the front, subdivided it, sold the back block, used it to pay for the front block, and now you've got a property that's being managed, positive cash flow, she's making a profit from it, manages itself, buys the next one, buys the next one. There's some really good strategy around that. That's one of many ideas that you can do to make money from buying property. What you really want to do is make sure before you've bought it, you've done your maths properly. It's a great way to get burnt by making a mistake, not knowing all your numbers, not knowing about capital gains tax or issues with tax or what your overhead costs will be or your holding costs. All these numbers, if you don't know them, do it properly. There's a lot of people I've seen that have subdivided, built the home, sold it, and actually made a loss or broken even and done a whole lot of work for nothing. Please, if you're thinking about doing this and you want some real good advice on doing it, have a chat to us. It's a free call. Have a chat to you, talk to you about your project. We're not going to try and sell you something that's not in your best interest. We're going to try and talk to you and say, this is what you're looking at. Is it a good buy, not a good buy? If you want our services, great. We'd rather give you advice than not give you advice and you find out the hard way that wasn't a good move. Independent Building Advice, we're here to help you. If you like this, please make a comment, subscribe. Don't forget, check the links below for the free download. At the end of the day, we're here to help you build, extend, subdivide, live your dreams. Thanks very much.